Honorable colleagues, my name is Toby Okechukwu. I represent Aninri of Awgu and Orji-River Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, I'm just rising as by practice and tradition that a bill to repeal Oaths Act is a piece of fundamental legislation. And we want to know the reason, the time for it. What are the reliefs? What is it that they want to cure? That they want to bring Parliament to amend the Oaths Act. So I think they need to present to us the general principles based on which they are bringing this amendment. Very important, because we cannot just ask them to just, we can't just pass it for second reading without sufficient information. So our decision should be knowledge-based. Thank you.
Well, I think
my name is Toby Okechukwu. I represent Aninri of Awgu and Orji-River Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, it is very apparent from our colleagues who are proposing this bill that there are people who are, by their positions, are in a position to know what is required. And I believe strongly that the Oaths Act needs to be brought up to speed, so it becomes a contemporary legislation that will speak to the realities of our environment. So I've also taken note of what my colleague Sada said. That was why I said we needed to know if it is to bring it up to speed, is an amendment. But I think these are processes that can take place. Whether we amend it now or whether it is a public hearing and all that. I mean, when that comes up, the people who are operators in the environment will also be able to advise for a better direction. So, but I think it's a piece of legislation that is very important. And since the chairman of FCT, Judiciary, and the chairman Justice, they are the people who are proposing this. And I'm sure they are doing it in concert with people who are operating in the system, in the Judiciary and Ministry of Justice. So I think, not necessarily, but I am also, it is experience-based. It is experience-based because they are the people who are seeing the weaknesses of the system. So I think it should pass second reading, but they should retool it to reflect what our colleagues have pointed out, and more importantly, what Sada has pointed out. Unless there is a much more reason for this, which means it should at least affect 50 to 51% of the act. Thank you very much. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, my name is Toby Okechukwu. I represent an area of Awgu and Orji-River Federal Constituency from Enugu State. Mr. Speaker, honorable colleagues, I think that what we should be looking at is what works best for us, what will be most useful in the process. I do not think we should be aiming at winning an argument here. First and foremost, we are generally agreed that in second reading, we debate principles. What is the reason deter for a bill? What is it meant to achieve? And a considered reason for that is, let us know what this thing is supposed to cure. Now, by the input of Mr. Honorable Kuye, it is evident that we have other bills that are passed. He said about 5 or 6. If that is the case, it goes within the realm of substantial alteration of the Oaths Act. It's no longer, as we are thinking, an amendment of whether we accommodate technology or not. So I think that it is prudent that we put it to the committee so that they expose it to experts. Whatever decision they are making, whether it's an amendment or it's going to be only that amendment and the other ones are thrown away, will be done within, it should be knowledge-based. And when we discuss the general principles, but when it is available to the public, they will get expert information to it. So I think the safe thing to do is that we know at the committee level presently, they can amend, they can alter, they can even add, because they will be acting with knowledge. But as a matter of principle, we are all agreed that we need to update our act to reflect present reality. If they feel that, like some of our colleagues have expressed, that it will be untidy, considering our exposure to some people who are tuned to fraud, and I think the law, like you rightly said, should anticipate that to make sure there is a cure to any form of fraud.
Okay.
But let us just go ahead and pass it.
Okay, thanks for the... Let me just ask a question, which may help all of us. Yes, let me ask this question. There is a maxim in law, and I'm sure Olarewaju, Toby, are all aware of this, that the last in time is first in law. That in interpreting a law, in doing anything,
these committees are being said not to have done their job, and we are moving the bills to the committee of the whole. And one of the bills is within the realm of chairman defense. So I think first and foremost, before his seconds, he should tell us why it has not been done.
Before his seconds?
Yes, before his seconds, he should tell us why that has not been done. Otherwise, he should go to that person.
It's not an inquisition. It's not an inquisition. Maybe he's overwhelmed. Maybe there's a lot of, maybe he wants to fast track it to the committee of whole.
Why should we be doing his job?
Yes.
3, which is Armed Forces Act Amendment Bill, which was sent to them 14/7/21.
Committee or the Bonandas? Anyway, yes.
Armed Forces, yeah.